The stars had always been quiet. For 300 years, humanity had traveled among them, building colonies, meeting other species, and finding their place in a galaxy far larger than they had ever imagined. Commander Lisa Morgan had spent 20 years in space, and she had learned to love that silence. But tonight, the silence felt wrong. She stood on the bridge of the Resolute, Earth's most powerful warship. The vessel stretched nearly 2 kilometers long, carrying 847 crew members and enough firepower to level a small moon. Lisa had commanded her for 5 years, and she knew every corner, every sound, every heartbeat of the ship. The message had arrived 16 minutes ago. It came broken and scattered, traveling across light years of empty space. Kevin Liu, her communications officer, had worked desperately to piece it together. Now it played on the main screen, and everyone on the bridge watched in frozen horror. The recording showed a burning space station. Bodies floated in the void. Ships exploded in the background like dying stars. A woman's voice, shaking with terror, spoke over the destruction. They came from nowhere. Hundreds of ships. They did not answer our calls. They did not demand surrender. They just started killing. The Galactic Coalition sent 3 fleets, all destroyed. Nothing stops them. They call themselves the Vorn Dominion. If anyone receives this, run. Run as far as you can. They are coming for everyone. The message ended. The bridge remained silent. Lisa felt her hands grip the railing in front of her. She had fought pirates, rescued colonists from dying worlds, and faced death more times than she could count. But she had never seen anything like this. The destroyed station was Kepler 9, home to 4 million people. The Coalition fleets numbered over 1,000 ships. All gone, Commander. Daniel Perry spoke first. He was her tactical officer and her oldest friend. They had served together for 15 years, through battles and peace, through loss and victory. His voice was steady, but she could see the fear in his eyes. Long-range sensors are picking up a large fleet moving through the Vega corridor. Estimated 400 vessels. They will reach the populated systems in approximately 72 hours. 72 hours. That was nothing. The main Coalition defense fleet was 2 weeks away. The inner colonies had almost no defenses. Billions of people lived in the path of this enemy. Lisa turned to Kevin. Have you contacted Coalition Command? Kevin nodded. He was young, only 26, but brilliant with communications equipment. Yes, Commander. They are ordering all ships to retreat to the Andros system for a combined defense. They want us to join them. If we retreat, Maria Santos said from her engineering station, the Vorn will reach the colonies unopposed. New Helsinki, Pacifica Station, the Mars settlements. 60 billion people, Commander. They will all die before the fleet can organize. Maria was right. Lisa knew it. Everyone on the bridge knew it. She walked to the main viewport and stared into the darkness. Somewhere out there, an enemy fleet was coming. They had destroyed everything in their path. They had crushed the combined might of 12 spacefaring species, and the Resolute was the only ship close enough to intercept them. 1 ship. Against 400, Commander Daniel said quietly, stepping to her side. The mathematics are not in our favor. Lisa almost smiled. Daniel always spoke like that, precise and careful. It was one of the things she loved about him. He never lied, never softened the truth. He trusted her enough to give her reality, not comfort. Oh, she agreed. They are not. The Kepler corridor, Daniel continued. It is the only route the Vorn can take without adding weeks to their journey. Narrow passage through the asteroid field. If a ship were to hold that position, it could slow them down. Create a bottleneck. 1 ship could not hold for long. No, but 1 ship might hold long enough. A few hours. Maybe more. Enough time for evacuations. Enough time for the fleet to move closer. Lisa looked at him. They had known each other for so long that words were sometimes unnecessary. She saw what he was offering. He was willing to die. They all were. She turned back to the bridge. Dr. Catherine Blake had come up from the medical bay. She was older than most of the crew, gray streaking her dark hair, but her eyes were sharp and kind. She had saved more lives than anyone Lisa had ever known. "Catherine," Lisa said, "what do we know about the Vorn?" Catherine pulled up data on her tablet. "Very little, Commander. They appear to be a conquering species. Records suggest they have destroyed over 200 civilizations across 3 galaxies. They do not negotiate. They do not accept surrender. They simply eliminate all opposition and move on. Any weaknesses? None documented. But I am analyzing the biological data from the Kepler-9 transmission. If there is something to find, I will find it." Lisa nodded. She looked at each member of her bridge crew. Kevin, young and frightened, but trying not to show it. Maria, fierce and determined, already calculating how to squeeze more power from the engines. Daniel, calm and ready, his hand resting near his weapon. Catherine, thoughtful and steady, already working on the problem. These were her people. Her family. She activated the ship-wide communication system. Her voice would reach every corner of the Resolute, every crew member, every soul aboard. "This is Commander Morgan. By now, you have all heard about the Vorn Dominion. You know what they have done? You know what they are coming to do? Coalition Command has ordered us to retreat, to join the defense fleet, to wait." She paused, letting the words settle. "I am refusing that order. In 72 hours, the Vorn will reach the inner colonies. 60 billion people will die. The only way to stop that is to slow the enemy down. To buy time for evacuations and reinforcements, the Resolute is the only ship that can do this. We will position ourselves in the Kepler corridor and hold the line for as long as possible." She took a breath. "I will not lie to you. Our chances of survival are very small. We are one ship against an armada that has never been defeated. Many of us will not see our homes again. I am not ordering you to do this. Anyone who wishes to leave may take the escape pods. No one will think less of you. No one will call you a coward. You have families. You have lives waiting for you. I will not ask you to give them up." She waited. The ship was silent. No one moved toward the escape pods. "But if you choose to stay, know this. What we do here will matter. Every minute we hold is a minute for someone to escape. Every shot we fire is a chance for someone's child to live. We may die in the darkness between stars, but we will die as humans have always died when it mattered most. Standing, fighting, refusing to abandon those who need us." She released the communication switch. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then, one by one, responses came in from every section of the ship. Engineering reported ready. Medical reported ready. Weapons, navigation, life support, the fighter bay, the research labs. Every department, every crew member, not a single person requested to leave. Lisa felt her eyes burn with tears she would not let fall. She had never been more proud. She had never been more terrified. "Daniel," she said, her voice steady, despite everything, "set course for the Kepler corridor. Maximum speed, aye, Commander." The Resolute turned toward the darkness. One ship, sailing toward 400 enemies. One crew, choosing to stand when running, was the only sane option. In the vastness of space, hope is a fragile thing. But sometimes that fragile thing is all that stands between annihilation and survival. The crew of the Resolute understood this. They did not know if they would win. They did not know if they would live, but they knew why they were going. And that was enough. The Kepler corridor was a graveyard of ancient rock. Asteroids the size of mountains floated in the darkness, spinning slowly, creating a maze that stretched for millions of kilometers. Any ship trying to pass through had to move carefully, following the narrow channels between the massive stones. It was the perfect place for an ambush. Lisa stood at the tactical display, watching the holographic map of the corridor. Daniel had marked the best positions, places where the Resolute could hide behind asteroids, strike quickly, and retreat before the enemy could respond. "Guerrilla tactics," Daniel explained. "We cannot fight them directly. We would be destroyed in minutes. But if we use the terrain, hit them from unexpected angles, disappear before they can target us, we can cause confusion. Make them slow down. Make them afraid? Afraid? Maria raised an eyebrow. They have conquered 200 civilizations. What could possibly make them afraid? Daniel smiled, though there was no humor in it. Humans have spent thousands of years fighting each other. We have developed tactics that most species never imagined. We understand ambush, misdirection, psychological warfare. The Vorn are used to enemies who fight in straight lines, who follow logic and reason. We are going to show them something different. Kevin looked up from his console. I have been analyzing their communication patterns. They use a centralized command structure. If we can disrupt their signals, their ships will have trouble coordinating. Can you jam them? Not completely, but I can create interference. Make it harder for them to talk to each other. And I have another idea. Pulled up a display showing multiple signal sources. I can make the Resolute appear as many ships, false signals, ghost images. They will not know what is real and what is fake. Lisa nodded. Do it. Maria, what about the engines? Maria's face was grim. I can give you more speed, but it will burn out the primary coils within a few hours. After that, we will be running on backup systems. Slower, less maneuverable. A few hours is all we need. Make it happen. Catherine entered the bridge, her tablet clutched in her hands. There was excitement in her eyes, the kind Lisa had seen when the doctor discovered something important. I found something, Catherine said. The Vorn ships use a crystalline compound in their shield generators. It is highly effective, but it has a resonance frequency. If we can hit that frequency with our weapons, their shields will fail. Can we modify our weapons to do that? Yes, it will take time, but it is possible. Lisa looked at her crew. Every one of them was working, finding solutions, refusing to give up. This was what it meant to be human. When faced with impossible odds, humans did not simply accept death. They fought. They adapted. They found ways. We have 6 hours before the Vorn arrive, Lisa announced. Let us use every minute. The Resolute disappeared into the asteroid field. From the outside, it looked like just another rock among millions. But inside, 847 people worked with desperate focus. Engineers rewired weapons. Pilots practiced attack runs in simulators. Medical teams prepared for casualties they knew were coming. Lisa walked through the ship speaking with her crew. She shook hands, shared words of encouragement, listened to their fears and hopes. A young engineer named Peter told her about his daughter back on Earth. A pilot named Grace showed her a picture of her parents. An older weapons officer named Henry simply nodded and said, "It has been an honor, Commander." Lisa carried all of them with her. Their faces, their stories, their trust. When she returned to the bridge, Kevin straightened in his chair. Commander, the Vorn fleet is entering the corridor. 412 vessels confirmed. They are moving in standard formation. On the main screen, the enemy appeared. Their ships were massive and angular, black as the void itself, covered in strange symbols that seemed to glow within her fire. Each one was a weapon of destruction, designed for conquest and annihilation. At the center of the formation flew the largest ship, easily 5 kilometers long. It bristled with weapons and radiated power. This was the flagship of Supreme Warlord Keth Vor, the commander who had never lost a battle. They are not expecting resistance, Daniel observed. Look at their formation. No defensive positioning. No scouts ahead. They think this will be easy. Let us teach them otherwise, Lisa said. All hands, battle stations. The Resolute came alive. Weapons powered up, shields activated. The crew moved to their positions with practiced precision. Lisa watched the Vorn fleet advance. They moved with arrogant confidence, spreading across the corridor like a dark tide. They had conquered so many worlds, destroyed so many species. They had forgotten what it felt like to be challenged. They were about to remember. Target the lead cruiser, Lisa ordered. Fire everything. The Resolute erupted from behind an asteroid, its weapons blazing. Beams of concentrated energy sliced through space, striking the Vorn cruiser before it could react. The modified frequency Catherine had discovered worked perfectly. The enemy shields flickered and died. The weapons tore through the hull. The cruiser exploded in a ball of fire. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. The Vorn fleet seemed frozen, unable to comprehend what had occurred. One of their ships, destroyed by a single enemy. Impossible. Then chaos erupted. The Resolute was already moving, diving behind another asteroid as return fire scorched the space where it had been. Kevin's jamming systems activated, filling the Vorn communications with static and confusion. His false signals appeared on their sensors, showing human ships that did not exist, creating panic and disorder. 3 cruisers breaking formation, Daniel reported. They are coming after us. Lead them through the asteroid field, Lisa commanded. Use the terrain. The Resolute raced through the maze of rocks, the Vorn cruisers following. But the human ship was faster, more agile. Maria had coaxed impossible performance from the engines. The Vorn vessels struggled to keep up, their massive bulk poorly suited for the narrow passages. One cruiser clipped an asteroid and spun out of control. The Resolute turned and fired, destroying it before it could recover. The second cruiser tried to cut them off, but Daniel had anticipated this. He had studied human naval battles for years, from ancient sailing ships to modern starcraft. He knew how to use terrain, how to create advantages from nothing. The Resolute emerged behind the second cruiser and opened fire. The crystalline frequency worked again. Shields failed. The ship died. The third cruiser retreated, fleeing back to the main fleet. On the flagship, Supreme Warlord Kethvor watched the battle unfold. His massive form sat upon a throne of conquered metals, his eyes burning with cold fury. In 10,000 years of conquest, he had never seen anything like this. 3 ships destroyed by a single enemy. His forces confused and scattered. "What is this vessel?" he demanded. His subordinate trembled. "It is a human ship, Supreme One, a species from the Outer Rim. Young, primitive, they should pose no threat." "Clearly they do." Kethvor leaned forward. "Send 20 ships. Surround them. Crush them." The Vorn formation shifted. 20 warships broke away, spreading out to encircle the area where the Resolute had last been seen. They moved carefully now, no longer confident. Fear had entered their hearts. Lisa watched them come. 20 ships. Still impossible odds. But the Vorn were hesitating, questioning, doubting. That was something. "Kevin, give them more ghosts. Make them chase shadows." "Yes, Commander." False signals appeared across the Vorn sensors. Suddenly, there were not 1 but 20 human ships scattered throughout the asteroid field. The Vorn commanders screamed at each other through damaged communications. Trying to coordinate, failing, the Resolute struck again, destroying 2 more vessels before disappearing into the rocks. The battle for the Kepler corridor had begun, and for the first time in 10,000 years, the Vorn Dominion faced an enemy that refused to die quietly. On the flagship, Kethvor felt something he had not experienced in centuries. Doubt these humans were different. They fought like no species he had ever encountered. They were creative, unpredictable, and utterly without fear. He wondered briefly if he had finally found an enemy worthy of his attention. Then he crushed the thought. They were 1 ship. Nothing more. He would destroy them no matter the cost. But deep in his ancient heart, a small voice whispered a warning. And for the first time, Kethvor did not silence it. The battle had lasted 8 hours. The Resolute had destroyed 31 enemy vessels, a number that should have been impossible. But the cost was terrible. Lisa walked through the corridors of her wounded ship. The walls were scorched black from plasma fires. Emergency lights flickered red in the darkness. The smell of burning metal filled the air, mixed with something worse. Something she did not want to name. 112 of her crew were dead. She had read every name, memorized every face. Peter, the young engineer who had shown her pictures of his daughter. Grace, the pilot, who loved her parents so much. Henry, the weapons officer, who had simply nodded and accepted his fate. All gone. All sacrificed for people they would never meet. 60 more crew members lay wounded in the medical bay. Catherine worked without rest, moving from patient to patient, saving those she could, easing the passing of those she could not. Her hands were steady, but Lisa could see the exhaustion in her eyes, the weight of so much death. "How long can you keep going?" Lisa asked her. Catherine looked up from a wounded crewman. "As long as I have to." "As long as they need me?" Lisa nodded. There was nothing else to say. She returned to the bridge. Daniel sat at his station, his left arm wrapped in bandages soaked with blood. A plasma burn had caught him during the last attack, searing through his uniform and into his flesh. Catherine had wanted to take him to medical. He had refused. "I am not leaving my post," he had said. "Not while we are still fighting." Maria was in engineering, holding the ship together through sheer determination. The primary engine coils had burned out exactly as she had predicted. They were running on backup systems now, slower and weaker. But Maria kept them moving, kept them fighting. Kevin had not slept in 2 days. His eyes were red, his hands shaking from stimulants, but he continued to jam enemy communications and create false signals. His work had saved the ship more times than anyone could count. This was her crew, broken, bleeding, exhausted, and still fighting. "Commander," Kevin said, his voice hoarse, "I am intercepting coalition transmissions. Multiple species are monitoring our battle through long-range sensors." Lisa frowned. "What are they saying?" Kevin hesitated. "They are ... debating. Some want to send help. Others say it would be suicide. The Veltari ambassador is arguing that we have proven ourselves worthy of assistance. But the Centauri Council believes we are already lost." Already lost. Lisa almost laughed. Perhaps they were. Perhaps this had always been a suicide mission. A desperate gesture that would change nothing. But she did not believe that. She could not believe that. "Let them debate," she said. "We will give them something to debate about." The Vorn attacked again. 15 ships this time, coming from 3 directions at once. They had learned from their earlier failures. They moved slowly, carefully, coordinating their fire. The Resolute fought back. Its weapons were damaged, operating at 60% capacity, but they still struck with deadly accuracy. Catherine's discovery about the crystalline shields had spread through the crew. Every gunner knew exactly where to aim. 2 more Vorn ships exploded. A third was crippled, spinning away into the asteroid field. But the Resolute took hits as well. A missile struck the port side, tearing open 3 decks. 20 crew members died in an instant, sucked into the void before emergency seals could close. Another blast knocked out the secondary shield generators. A third destroyed the forward sensor array. Lisa gripped her command chair as the ship shook around her. Damage reports flooded in. Systems failing. Crew dying. Everything falling apart. "We cannot take much more of this," Daniel said quietly. "We do not have to," Lisa replied. "We just have to take enough." She opened a communication channel to the entire ship. Her voice was calm, steady, the voice of a commander who had accepted whatever was coming.
"All hands, this is Commander Morgan.
We have been fighting for 8 hours. We have destroyed 31 enemy vessels. We have held the line against the greatest military force this galaxy has ever seen. Every minute we survive is a minute for evacuation ships to carry people to safety. Every shot we fire is a chance for someone else to live. I know you are tired. I know you are afraid. I know many of you have lost friends today, but we are not finished yet. We are human. We do not give up. We do not surrender. We fight until we cannot fight anymore. And then we fight some more." She paused. The ship was silent except for the hum of damaged systems. "I am proud of every single one of you. Whatever happens next, remember that. Remember what we have done here. Remember that one ship stood against an empire, and for 8 hours, that empire could not pass." She closed the channel. On the Vorn flagship, Keth Vor watched the battle with growing frustration. 31 ships lost. To one enemy. This was unprecedented. This was humiliating. He had studied the humans briefly before engaging them. A young species, barely 3 centuries into space travel, their technology was inferior. Their numbers were small. They should have been easy prey, but they fought like nothing he had ever seen. They used tactics that made no logical sense, yet somehow worked. They refused to retreat when retreat was the only sane option. They sacrificed themselves for strangers they would never meet. It was madness. Beautiful, terrible madness. For a moment, HFY felt something strange. Respect. He crushed it immediately, but it had been there. These humans had earned something from him that no other species ever had. Supreme One, his subordinate, reported, "The human vessel is severely damaged. Their weapons are failing. They cannot survive much longer. Then end this. Send 50 ships. Destroy them." Back on the Resolute, Catherine burst onto the bridge. Her face was pale, but there was fire in her eyes. "Commander, I found it. The compound in their shields, it is not just in their ships. It is in their bodies. Their entire species relies on it for neural function. If we can broadcast a specific frequency throughout this region, every Vorn in range will be affected. Their coordination will fail. Their reactions will slow." Lisa stared at her. "Can we do that?" "I believe so. Kevin can use the communication array to broadcast the frequency. It will take everything we have left, but it should work." Kevin nodded, already working on the calculations. "I can do it, Commander. But once I start broadcasting, we will have no communications. No jamming. No false signals. They will know exactly where we are." "They already know where we are," Daniel said grimly. 50 Vorn ships were approaching, a wall of death moving toward them. Lisa made her decision in an instant. Do it broadcast to the entire sector. If the Coalition is watching, let them see exactly what the Vorn weakness is. Let them have the information they need to win this war. Kevin's fingers flew across his console. The Resolute's communication array activated, sending out a pulse that spread across light years of space. Every Coalition vessel, every monitoring station, every species watching this battle received the data. The Vorn weakness. The key to defeating an empire. Lisa had given it away freely. She could have bargained with it, traded it for rescue. But that was not the human way. When humans discovered something that could save lives, they shared it. Even with those who had abandoned them. Especially with those who had abandoned them. The broadcast hit the approaching Vorn ships. Lisa watched as their perfect formation wavered. Ships drifted off course. Weapons fired erratically. The neural disruption was working, but they kept coming. Slower, clumsier, but still coming. And the Resolute had nothing left to hide behind. No tricks, no deceptions. Just one battered ship against 50 enemies. Lisa stood tall on her broken bridge, surrounded by her wounded crew, facing impossible odds. "All hands," she said calmly. "Prepare for combat." The Vorn attacked, and the humans, as they always had, stood their ground. 16 hours. The Resolute had been fighting for 16 hours. Half its weapons were destroyed. Shields flickered at 15%. 300 crew members were dead, their bodies stored in the cargo bay because there was no time for proper burial. Lisa sat in her command chair, gripping the armrests so tightly her knuckles had turned white. Blood dripped from a cut on her forehead, mixing with sweat and grime. She had not slept. She had barely eaten. She had watched her people die one by one, and she carried every loss like a weight on her soul. But they were still alive, still fighting. Still holding the line, the Vorn had lost 87 ships. 87. The number seemed impossible, but it was true. One human vessel against an armada, and the armada was bleeding. HFY had stopped sending small attack groups. Now his remaining ships circled the asteroid field like predators, searching for any opening. The neural disruption had faded as his forces adapted, but the damage was done. His fleet was confused, demoralized, furious, and he was communicating with the Resolute human commander. His voice came through the speakers, deep and ancient, filled with cold authority. "You have fought well. Better than any species I have ever encountered, I offer you an honor I have never extended before. Surrender now, and I will grant you and your crew a quick death. No suffering, no torture. Simply an end. Lisa looked at Daniel. He was barely conscious, his wounded arm hanging useless at his side, but he managed a weak smile. Maria had come to the bridge, her face blackened with engine grease and burn scars, her eyes bright with defiance. Kevin sat at his station, fingers still moving across controls, refusing to stop. Catherine had returned from medical, having done all she could for the wounded. Her crew, her family. Lisa activated the communication channel. Her voice was hoarse, tired, but absolutely steady. Supreme Warlord HFY, I have heard your offer. I have a counteroffer for you. She paused, letting the moment stretch. Humans do not surrender to those who murder the innocent. We do not bow to those who destroy without mercy. We do not accept death from those who believe might makes right. Your empire has conquered 200 species. You think that makes you powerful? But true power is not measured by what you destroy. It is measured by what you protect. She stood, facing the main screen as if HFY could see her. We are one ship. We are wounded, dying, almost broken. And yet here we stand, between you and billions of innocent lives. We have held you for 16 hours. We have cost you 87 ships, and we are still fighting. Her voice rose, filled with something that was not anger, not pride, but something deeper, something human. So here is my counteroffer. Leave now. Turn your fleet around and go back to whatever darkness you came from. Do this, and we will let you go. We will not pursue. We will not seek revenge. We will simply let you leave. Silence. Every soul on the Resolute held their breath. Then HFY laughed. It was a terrible sound, ancient and cruel, echoing through the bridge like thunder. You threaten me? A crippled ship threatens the supreme warlord of the Vorn Dominion. You are either brave beyond measure or mad beyond help. Perhaps both, Lisa replied. Humans have always been a little of each. The communication ended. HFY had made his decision. All ships, his command rang out across the Vorn fleet. Attack at once. Destroy them. Every remaining Vorn vessel moved toward the Resolute. Over 300 ships, converging from every direction. There was no escape. No trick that could save them. This was the end. Lisa looked at her crew one last time. Daniel, her oldest friend, still smiling despite everything. Maria, fierce and unbroken. Kevin, brilliant and brave. Catherine, kind and steadfast. And beyond them, hundreds more. People who had chosen to stay. People who had chosen to die for strangers. It has been an honor, she said quietly. Or at the honor's hours, Commander, Daniel replied. The Vorn fleet opened fire. Hundreds of weapons, thousands of projectiles. A storm of death converging on one tiny point in space. And then, something extraordinary happened. Space itself seemed to tear open. Light poured through cracks in reality, brilliant and blinding. Ships emerged from the light. Hundreds of ships. Coalition ships. The Valtari fleet came first, their sleek silver V cells cutting through the darkness. Behind them came the Centauri, massive warships bristling with weapons. Then the Karathi, the Mendari, the Silex, and more. Species after species, fleet after fleet, pouring into the Kepler corridor. Lisa stared at the screen, unable to believe what she was seeing. 3 coalition fleets. They had come. Despite the debates, despite the fear, despite everything. They had come. A message crackled through the speakers. The voice belonged to Ambassador Zethral of the Valtari, speaking for the entire alliance. Resolute, this is the Galactic Coalition Combined Fleet. We apologize for our delay. We debated while you fought. We hesitated while you bled. We watched from safety while you faced death alone. But we watched long enough to see something we had forgotten. We watched humans stand against impossible odds. Not for glory, not for power, but for the lives of strangers. You reminded us what it means to be worthy of the stars. So we come now not to rescue you, but to stand with you. We will not let humans stand alone. Lisa felt tears streaming down her face. She did not try to stop them. The coalition fleet engaged the Vorn. Fresh ships with full weapons and shields. Slammed into an enemy already weakened and demoralized. The crystalline weakness Catherine had discovered was in every coalition database now. Every gunner knew exactly where to strike. The Vorn formation shattered. Ships exploded. Commanders screamed for retreat. The invincible armada that had conquered 200 species crumbled like paper in a storm. Kethvuar watched his fleet die around him. 10,000 years of victory, ended by a single human ship in the alliance it inspired. He ordered his flagship to target the Resolute. If he was going to die, he would take that accursed vessel with him. But the coalition was faster. Veltari ships surrounded his flagship, their weapons blazing. Centauri missiles struck his engines. Karathi fighters swarmed his hull. The supreme warlord of the Vorn Dominion died without surrender. His last thought a mixture of fury and something he had never expected to feel, respect for the species that had destroyed everything he built. The battle ended as suddenly as it had begun. The Vorn fleet was annihilated. Not a single enemy vessel survived. The Resolute drifted in the wreckage. It's barely functional, its hull torn and bleeding atmosphere. But it was alive. Battered, broken, but alive. Lisa slumped in her command chair. Around her, what remained of her crew sat in exhausted silence. They had done it. Against all odds, against all logic, they had held the line. A coalition medical ship docked with the Resolute. Doctors and supplies poured aboard. The wounded were stabilized. The dying were given peace. Ambassador Zethral came aboard personally. He was tall and slender, his blue skin marked with patterns of great age and wisdom. He walked through the damaged corridors, seeing the scars of battle, the blood, evidence of sacrifice. When he reached the bridge, he stood before Lisa and bowed deeply. Commander Morgan, on behalf of the Galactic Coalition, I offer our eternal gratitude. What you have done here will never be forgotten. You have taught us that courage is not the absence of fear, but the choice to act despite it. You have reminded us that some things are worth dying for. Lisa rose slowly, every muscle aching, every bone weary. We did not fight for gratitude, she said. We fought because it was right, because those people needed someone to stand for them, because that is what humans do. Zethral nodded. Yes, we understand now, and the galaxy will remember. He paused, looking around at the wounded crew, the damaged bridge, the evidence of 16 hours of impossible resistance. Dominion is broken. Their empire will collapse within a generation. You have not only saved billions of lives today, you have ended a threat that has haunted this galaxy for 10,000 years. Lisa thought about that. 10,000 years of conquest ended by one ship that refused to retreat. It seemed impossible. But here they were. She looked at Daniel, now being treated by coalition medics. At Maria, already talking to engineers about repairs. At Kevin, finally allowing himself to rest. At Catherine, helping the wounded even though she needed help herself. Her crew, her family, the ones who had chosen to stand. We should go home, she said quietly. Shao smiled. Home awaits you, Commander. And when you arrive, you will find that you are no longer strangers among the stars. You are heroes. The first among equals. The species that reminded us all what it means to be worthy of the light. The Resolute, escorted by 100 coalition vessels, began its long journey back to Earth. Behind them, the Kepler corridor burned with the wreckage of an empire, and ahead of them, a galaxy that would never forget what one ship and 847 souls had done in the darkness. 10 years had passed since the Battle of Kepler Corridor. The galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. And at the center of that change were the humans who had refused to run. Lisa Morgan stood on a balcony overlooking the city of New Geneva, Earth's capital. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of gold and crimson. In the distance, she could see the spaceport where ships from 100 worlds came and went. Trade vessels, diplomatic cruisers, tourist transports. A galaxy that had once viewed humans with polite indifference now sought them out as partners, allies, friends. She wore the uniform of an admiral now, as the highest rank in Earth's fleet. The medals on her chest represented battles fought and lives saved. But the medal she treasured most was a simple bronze star, given to every survivor of the Resolute. It was called the Kepler Star, and it was the most honored decoration in human history. Behind her, she heard footsteps. Daniel Perry walked onto T. He balcony moving slowly. His left arm had never fully recovered from the plasma burn. The doctors had offered a synthetic replacement, but he had refused. He said the scar reminded him of who he was and what they had done. The ceremony starts in an hour, he said. The president is already there. Half the coalition ambassadors, too. Lisa nodded, but did not turn around. I know you are nervous. I have spoken to crowds before, Daniel. Not like this. Not in front of the entire galaxy.
Ow.
She finally turned to face him. 10 years had added lines to her face, gray to her hair, but her eyes were the same, strong, determined, kind. I keep thinking about them, she said quietly. The ones who did not come home. Peter and his daughter. Grace and her parents. Henry, who just nodded. All of them. 521 people who died so that I could stand here today and receive honors. Daniel walked to her side. They did not die for you. They died for the same reason you were willing to die. Because it was right. Because those people needed someone. Because that is what humans do. Lisa smiled sadly. You sound like me. I learned from the best. They stood together in silence, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. Somewhere in the city, music played. Children laughed. Life continued as it always did. Regardless of the sacrifices that made it possible, Maria Santos had retired from the fleet 2 years ago. She lived on a farm now, of all things, growing vegetables and raising animals. She said she had spent enough time with machines. She wanted to remember what it felt like to create life instead of preserve it. But she still came to visit, still argued with engineers about the proper way to maintain an engine, still carried the fire that had kept the Resolute alive. Kevin Liu had become the head of Coalition Communications, designing systems that connected hundreds of worlds. His work had revolutionized interstellar travel and diplomacy. He was famous now, wealthy beyond measure, but he still lived simply. He said he had learned in the Kepler corridor that possessions meant nothing. Only people mattered. Catherine Blake had returned to medicine, teaching at the finest medical schools in the galaxy. Species from across the stars sent their doctors to learn from her. She had saved thousands of lives since the battle, and she intended to save thousands more. When asked about her legacy, she always said the same thing. I just tried to help. That is all any of us can do. And then there was Daniel. Loyal, steady Daniel, who had stood beside Lisa through everything. He had turned down a dozen promotions, 100 opportunities. He said his place was at her side, just as it had always been. Some people whispered that they were more than friends. Neither of them ever confirmed or denied it. What they had was beyond labels, beyond explanation. It simply was. The ceremony took place in the Great Hall of Unity, a massive structure built after the battle to symbolize the new alliance between humans and the Coalition. Representatives from every member species filled the audience. Cameras broadcast the event to billions of viewers across the galaxy. Lisa walked to the podium, feeling the weight of so many eyes upon her. The president of Earth spoke first, praising her courage and leadership. Ambassador Zethral followed, speaking of the debt the Coalition owed to humanity. Other leaders added their voices, their gratitude, their respect, and then it was her turn. Lisa looked out at the crowd. She saw faces from 100 worlds, species of every shape and color, united in this moment of remembrance. She saw her surviving crew members in the front row. Maria, uncomfortable in formal clothes. Kevin, nervous as always in crowds. Catherine, calm and supportive. Daniel, watching her with quiet pride. She thought about what to say. She had prepared a speech, filled with appropriate phrases and diplomatic language. But standing here, facing a galaxy that called her a hero, she could not bring herself to deliver it. Instead, She spoke from her heart. 10 years ago, I stood on the bridge of a ship called the Resolute. We were alone in the darkness, facing an enemy that had never been defeated. By all logic, by all reason, we should have run. We should have saved ourselves and left others to their fate. That is what survival demanded. She paused, letting the silence settle. But we did not run. Not because we were brave. Not because we were special. We stayed because we remembered something that many species forget when they reach for the stars. We remembered that the value of a life is not measured by its length, but by what it protects. We remembered that true power is not the ability to destroy, but the willingness to sacrifice. We remembered that we are all connected, all part of something larger than ourselves. Her voice grew stronger. The people of the Resolute did not fight for glory. They did not fight for medals or monuments. They fought for a child they would never meet, sleeping safely in a bed on a world they would never see. They fought for families who would never know their names. They fought for the simple, profound belief that every life matters. That is why we stood. That is why 521 of my crew members gave everything they had. She looked directly at the camera, speaking now not to the dignitaries, but to every person watching across the galaxy. I am asked often what humans can offer to this great alliance. We are young. Our technology is not the most advanced. Our numbers are not the greatest. But I believe we offer something more valuable than ships or weapons. We offer the reminder that courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to act despite fear. We offer the example that standing for others, even when it costs everything, is always worth it. We offer hope. She stepped back from the podium. The Resolute now orbits Earth as a monument to those who fell. Visitors from across the galaxy come to walk its scarred corridors, to stand where heroes stood, to remember. On the entrance, there is a plaque. It carries words that I hope will echo through time, long after all of us are forgotten. Lisa closed her eyes, reciting from memory. Here stood humanity. Here stood hope. Here stood the line that would not break. She opened her eyes. The hall erupted in applause. Representatives rose to their feet, clapping, cheering, some openly weeping. The sound washed over Lisa like a wave, but she barely heard it. She was thinking about her crew, about the 521 who never came home, about the moments of terror and sacrifice that no ceremony could truly capture. But she was also thinking about the future, about the worlds that would flourish because one ship refused to retreat, about the children who would grow up in peace because their ancestors had chosen to stand, about the legacy that would outlast empires and ages. That night, Lisa returned to her apartment alone. She poured a glass of wine and walked to her window, looking up at the stars. Somewhere out there, the Resolute orbited in eternal silence, its hull scarred, its weapons cold. Visitors walked its corridors every day, touching the walls, feeling the weight of history, and somewhere in the vastness of space, on countless worlds she would never visit, people looked up at their own stars and remembered. They remembered that one ship had stood when retreat was the only sane choice. They remembered that 847 souls had chosen death over abandonment. They remembered that in the darkness between stars, hope had burned brighter than any sun. Lisa raised her glass to the window, to the night sky, to the memory of everyone she had lost. We did not stand alone, she whispered, and because we stood, no one ever will again. She drank, and the stars seemed to shine just a little brighter. In the great story of the galaxy, many tales would be told. Empires would rise and fall. Species would discover wonders beyond imagination. The universe would continue its eternal dance of creation and destruction, but one story would never be forgotten. The story of a single ship, a brave crew, the 16 hours that changed everything. The story of the last human ship that stood alone, and in standing alone, ensured that humanity would never stand alone again.